This pardon wasn't mercy. It was rot, deep, political rot disguised as redemption. When Jasmine Crockett took the floor, it was clear from her body language and firm tone that this wasn't going to be another run-of-the-mill comment on political corruption. This was a mission, and she wasn't going to pull any punches. In referencing Julie and Todd Chrisley, best known for their roles in the reality TV show Chrisley Knows Best, she didn't just criticize them for the financial fraud that landed them in prison. She zeroed in on the fact that their pardon was facilitated by Donald Trump in a move she labeled a favor to fame, not fairness. Crockett highlighted how the Chrisleys' privileged status and celebrity proximity allowed them to jump the line in a justice system that is supposed to serve the people equally. In her words, this wasn't a simple case of forgiveness, it was corruption crystallized. It was the way she built her case that really drove the message home. Crockett pointed to the Chrisleys' conviction for bank fraud and tax evasion, crimes that resulted in millions of dollars in damages. Despite the clear evidence and subsequent sentencing, the couple received an astonishing level of leniency once Trump extended his clemency. According to Crockett, this kind of preferential pardon proves the system isn't broken, it's working exactly the way it was designed to benefit the rich and powerful. She stressed that countless Americans, many of them poor and people of color, remain incarcerated for non-violent offenses, without any hope of such mercy. But somehow, the Chrisleys, with their luxury lifestyle and access to influential circles, were considered pardon-worthy. Her tone grew even more cutting as she turned her attention toward Donald Trump, accusing him of using the pardon power not as a tool of compassion but as a currency of loyalty. She compared the Chrisley pardon to others Trump granted during his presidency, many of which were given to personal allies, political operatives, and celebrities rather than individuals who had demonstrated genuine rehabilitation or unjust treatment. Crockett called it a reality TV presidency that treated the Constitution like a prop and the people like extras. And then came the word, the one that lit up social media in an instant: rot. With one syllable, Crockett crystallized her entire argument, declaring, this pardon wasn't mercy, it was rot, deep, political rot disguised as redemption. That single word, spoken with venom and conviction, struck a nerve. The internet exploded, the hashtag #hashrot trended within minutes, pundits debated it, comedians satirized it, and memes multiplied by the second. But the deeper significance wasn't lost in the noise. Crockett had cut to the marrow of the issue, the moral decay she sees at the heart of a political system where justice is auctioned off to the highest bidder, or in this case, the most famous face. The simplicity of the word contrasted with the complex web of corruption it described, and that clarity is what made it stick in the public consciousness. But Crockett didn't stop there. She went on to question the criteria that led to the Chrisleys being considered for a pardon in the first place. Was it their remorse? She asked rhetorically, or was it their ratings? She noted how the Chrisleys continued to present themselves as victims even after being convicted, never once publicly acknowledging the full scope of their wrongdoing. Crockett posed a powerful contrast: thousands of nameless individuals sitting behind bars, remorseful and reformed, but invisible. Where's their pardon? She asked. Where's the mercy for them? It was a chilling indictment of how celebrity culture has seeped into the halls of power, creating a system in which notoriety trumps justice and fame fast-tracks forgiveness. The Chrisley family, for their part, tried to brush off the criticism. Through a spokesperson, they emphasized their faith, their legal appeals, and their belief that justice would ultimately prevail. But the damage had already been done. Crockett's words, especially that one word, had shifted the public conversation. Her critique wasn't just about the Chrisleys, or even Trump, but about a broader moral erosion in America's legal and political institutions. The pardon, in her view, wasn't an isolated act of generosity, it was a snapshot of everything that's gone wrong. In the aftermath, supporters of Jasmine Crockett rallied behind her fiery takedown. Civil rights groups and justice reform advocates praised her for highlighting the racial and socio-economic disparities in clemency decisions. Hashtags like #JusticeNotFame and #PardonThePeople began trending alongside #rot. Meanwhile, Trump loyalists and conservative commentators tried to dismiss her remarks as political theater, with some accusing her of attacking the Chrisleys out of personal animosity or racial bias. But Crockett, never one to back down, doubled down instead. Appearing on a follow-up news panel, she made it clear that her issue wasn't personal, it was systemic. This isn't about disliking a couple from a reality show, she said. This is about the structural favoritism that infects our government. If you're famous, if you're rich, or if you're loyal to a certain man in power, you get a second chance. Everyone else gets a second sentence. That line went viral, too. The resonance of her statement struck at the heart of America's fractured criminal justice system and the ongoing frustration with how imbalanced the scales of justice have become. Crockett then turned the spotlight on her own constituents, ordinary Americans dealing with the weight of legal and social injustices. She recounted stories of individuals denied parole despite model behavior, people unable to afford legal representation, families torn apart by mandatory minimums, and lives lost to the slow grind of an uncaring system. Her message was sharp: the Chrisleys didn't need a pardon, the people did. She argued that Trump's use of executive clemency betrayed its original intent, transforming a constitutional safeguard into a political perk. And in framing it this way, she connected celebrity indulgence with everyday suffering in a way that couldn't be ignored. For many, this confrontation came to symbolize a larger battle, a clash between two versions of America, one where rules apply equally and justice is blind, and another where the rich and well-connected can simply buy their way out of accountability. Crockett's use of "rot" echoed through the halls of media commentary for days, becoming shorthand for a sentiment felt by millions but rarely articulated with such force. In a country growing weary of double standards and political theater, her speech offered a moment of clarity, uncomfortable but undeniable. As outrage continued to simmer, some lawmakers began calling for reforms to the presidential pardon process. Crockett herself proposed that clemency recommendations be made more transparent, with independent review boards ensuring decisions are based on merit, not celebrity or political affiliation. If we're going to keep pretending we're the land of justice, she said, we need to stop handing out favors like candy to those who already dine at power's table. The image she painted was devastatingly vivid, of a government more concerned with spectacle than substance. Julie and Todd Chrisley have long maintained their innocence and portrayed themselves as targets of an unfair system. But Crockett's argument wasn't about guilt or innocence, it was about integrity, whether or not the Chrisleys deserved a second chance. She insisted, the fact that it came from a president infamous for transactional politics made the entire process suspect. Her voice, fierce, principled, unshaken, reminded many of the importance of holding power accountable, especially when it wraps itself in the veil of mercy to disguise its motives. Even as conservative media scrambled to paint her speech as an attack on Christian families or traditional values, Crockett stuck to her central thesis, that power used irresponsibly is a threat to democracy. In her view, the Chrisley pardon was just another chapter in a long book of moral compromise that has eroded the credibility of government. She asked the nation to consider not just what kind of justice we want, but what kind of justice we are currently upholding by staying silent in the face of clear bias. The implications of her speech are still being felt. Political watchdogs have begun investigating the full list of Trump's pardons and are pushing for a deeper look at who benefits most from executive leniency. Activists are re-energizing calls for mass clemency reviews focused on those serving time for non-violent offenses, particularly in marginalized communities. Crockett's confrontation has become a rallying cry, not just for justice reform, but for a moral reawakening in how we define fairness in this country. In an age of fast-moving news cycles and fleeting controversies, Crockett's words endured. The reason why is clear, because she tapped into something fundamental. When she called the pardon "rot," she wasn't just condemning a policy, she was naming a condition, a sickness in the body of the nation that we've all felt but struggled to describe. That one word became a symbol, a diagnosis, of how deep the favoritism, the cronyism, the unequal application of justice truly runs. It made people uncomfortable, but it also made them think. If America is to live up to its promise, Crockett argued, then we can't afford to keep ignoring the ways in which our systems reward the few while abandoning the many. Her speech wasn't just about the Chrisleys or Trump. It was a warning shot across the bow of complacency, a demand for accountability, and a call for collective courage. Her boldness reminded people that democracy only works when we hold power to account, not when we let it skate by on celebrity, charm, or television ratings. If you found this video powerful and want to see more honest conversations, bold truths, and fearless commentary like this, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep holding power accountable, together.